going on, Conscious Crew? It's your favorite breakdown commentator, CTV. Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform. You already know what we're here to get into. Before we do so, go ahead and thumbs up this video. Thumbing up not only helps with YouTube's algorithm, but more importantly, it triggers up YouTube's notification system. So when you are thumbing up the video, you are literally knocking on the digital door of another Conscious Crew member and telling them to get their asses into the goddamn sanctuary, because the king is in fact king game. Also, shout out to all of the new subbies. Dream work make the team work. I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you guys also have your notification bell set to all. And last but not least, please share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your Instagram, your Facebook, your MySpace, your Twitter, the dark side of your Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're loud, live, and in color. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through. Okay.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know why people are calling me and they see that I'm working. Hold on, y'all. I don't got so many missed calls and text messages. Real. Hold on, y'all. I'll handle that afterwards. Let's speak to the Conscious Crew in the building. What's going on, Sin? Hey, Sexy Nessa. What's going on, Doe's Eye? What's going on, Tam Tam? Hey, Kiwana. What's going on, Shirley the Chi? Hey, Crystal. Hey, Sonja. Hey, Jay. What's going on, Shally? Hey, St. Marquise. You guys already know what we're here to get into. I initially was going to do this review pre-recorded, but then it just would require too much editing and I was not in the damn mood. So I'm going to instead just do the review here. We're going to do a fair use and use the audio from Don Lemon, who recently sat down with Candace Owens, who for whatever reason has been doing a press circuit. She was also on Marc Lamont Hill's platform last week. So I don't know what's going on. Is Candace Owens supposed to be speaking at the end, at the RNC? Because this would be like the 20th year her ass has not been personally invited to the Real Niggas Arcaving Convention. What's going on, Corey? Hey, Chanel. But the interview was very interesting. Okay. Hey, Enlightened. Okay, you said no. All right. I figured. She can't rim job enough whiteness, girl, to get her ass up in there real good. Now, let me pull up an old nasty piece of visual. I am so tired. I need to go to sleep. Hold on, let me get an nasty visual for y'all. Try to get over the nasty visual, girl, because we are working, auntie. We're working, honey. Put up my old nasty piece of fair use. Get that out the way, too. Wait, Miss Fair Use said, okay, great. All right, so as I was saying, Don Lemon interviewed Candace Can't Keep a Job Owens on his YouTube channel, and it was just as contentious as her recent interview with another Black journalist and media commentator, Marc Lamont Hill. And just as that interview, I felt this one also led to no one really being a winner. Both Candace and Don contradicted themselves and did their fair share of cherry picking. I found that despite all these political commentators claiming that they are interested in talking and listening to both sides, that they all, in actuality, seek to just be right and win the debate disguised as a mutual, heartfelt, honest conversation, which is a major disservice to the viewing public, you know, who we would be able to take a lot more away from the discussion if they in fact were damn discussions and not opportunities for people to swing their egos toward the finish line. We're going to play some audio clips in here from the hour-long discussion where pussy popping and cherry picking were obvious, and I'm going to also share what I agreed with and then my conclusion. Nah, baby, we gotta get the timestamp, and I can't stand no timestamp and shit. Oh, you know, I'm gonna have to change my microphone. I'm gonna have to change it. Okay, so I want to pull up to the 8-minute and 50-second mark. Nope, it's actually the 8-minute and 45-second mark of the interview, and I want you guys to listen to this soundbite.
Yeah, you know, obviously I fundamentally disagree with your assessment, and I think it's very strange coming from a party where Hillary Clinton denied the election results for years. I mean, and said that her election was stolen from her. It's very weird for people to suddenly just not remember that. Sometimes it feels like the press.
There was no insurrection around that. I mean, to be eventually.
Well, now you're accusing him of the insurrection. He has nothing to do with.
No, I said, but there was no insurrection around that. I didn't mean.
You can say that or not, but you just said he's an election denier. Okay, well that would put Hillary Clinton in the exact same camp. And so it's very weird when there seems to be this sort of like Men in Black memory wipe where people pretend that suddenly Trump was the first person who questioned election results when that's been going on for a very long time in America.
Okay, so as you guys can hear there, Candace and Dawn get into this discussion about Donald Trump's lack of integrity and being a super spreader of misinformation as a result of not getting his way. And Candace defends Trump by trying to call out that Hillary Clinton had also uttered that the election had been stolen from her back in 2016 when she faced off with Trump for the presidency, which is a false equivalency because what Hillary Clinton stated in layman's terms is that she felt Trump played off a lot of antics, fear-mongering, and shot jockeying to pull off his win, rather than winning fair and square by focusing on who had the best policies in mind and vision for the country, while Trump, when he lost to Biden, went as far as to calling his political loss to be rigged, which threw the integrity of the companies who manufactured the voting machines into question, leading them to a massive-ass lawsuit against Trump, who doubled down and made the committee do a second recount and even wanted a damn third recount, despite coming up 74 electoral college votes short to Biden's, and coming up 7 million plus votes short of Biden's in the popular vote during the 2020 election year. Despite a federal investigation concluding that the polls and machines had not been rigged or tainted, the companies of the voting machines, Smartmatic and Dominion, are dragging Donald Trump's bald-head ass back into court next year with new evidence in their defamation suit against the sore loser, not to mention that Trump damn near had to be forced to pack up his wife beaters and spray tans upon Biden's inauguration. But maybe what took Trump so long was him packing up all them damn classified top secret documents that he would later be charged with treason for stealing. And let's not forget him telling his maniac supporters to peacefully protest the loss in his honor, knowing that his cult following has the emotional intelligence of an 8-day-old banana and would do exactly what they did, which was end up with a bullet in their asses. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to move it along and head down to the 10-minute mark of this interview. I want you guys to listen to this.
To actually desecrated the Capitol and beat up police officers, and a police officer ended up dying. That's a whole different thing. Those two are not equal.
So your old network even debunks the points that you just made. Obviously, the person that died that day was Ashley Babbitt. The only person who died on that day.
My old network does not debunk that.
They absolutely. I covered it on my show. Even
no,
CNN,
I work there. They do
okay.
not. They do not.
Well, I have my computer. Do you want me to bring it up live? The CNN article where they debunked that Brian, who you're talking about, the police officer, died that day. He didn't.
No, I didn't
die
say
that
he died
day.
that day. I said
okay,
he
correct.
died.
Let me finish this. You said he
Officer
died because you're trying to make people believe that it had something to do with what happened.
Okay. So as you guys can hear here, Candace Owens royally fucked up, in my personal opinion, in this debate at this minute mark, after deciding that she would defend Trump being innocent of launching an insurrection and claiming to stand on Catholic Christian values, while in the same breath tried to paint the female insurrectionist Ashley Babbitt, who openly, willfully broke into a federal building, aka the Capitol, as a victim. While Candace argued that the officer who was defending that Capitol building, who was beat with poles and sticks during the same violent event and later died from a stroke because of the complications unrelated to the traumatizing event. That would be her claim. Make it make sense. So you don't want to hold Ashley Babbitt as responsible for her own death, even though her actions were the direct cause of her own behavior, while the officer, Ashley, and her band of heathens decided to attack later, you want to say died from every other issue except the profound emotional and psychological harm caused by Ashley and her fellow criminals, despite many of the security officers of that event coming forward in interviews and documentaries claiming that the events of that day would haunt them for the rest of their lives, even forcing some of them to resign as a result of the PTSD they now suffer. I mean, Candace is so far up Trump's orange asshole that her sense of reason and fact has been handicapped as a result of all the pegging she's doing. This was actually quite disgusting to me, and proof that Candace is intentionally misleading, deceitful, very much so irrationally biased and agenda driven, with no truth being in her square head ass. How dare you claim to be a God-fearing woman, but can't even hold the female insurrectionists accountable for breaking one of the damn 10 commandments, and using the same Bible to unbiasedly say how Ashley, and instead actually of using the same Bible that you use to justify your homophobia and your transphobia and all your other bigotry, to actually criticize and hold Ashley responsible for reaping that which her ass sowed as a result of breaking the damn law, which the Bible also declares us to obey in the land. I mean, this is literally Candace being her own damn receipt to having zero integrity and taking her conservative Bible literalism as a joke and just another outfit that she's wearing to find favor amongst extreme right wingers. So let's fast forward to the 19-minute mark of this debate. Some of these timestamps might be a little off, just a little bit. Check this out.
What if I told you that
we got a commercial? Thumbs up the video, you guys, and share, please.
Giving you one example of that would be the dawn of the trans indoctrination that you and I did not go through in school. That to me is a very severe thing. I think it's demonic, quite literally demonic, as in worshiping Baphomet. It goes back a long time. And I'm going to use my platform.
You said worshiping what? I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Baphomet.
Okay, got it. Well, here's the thing. I don't know about. I'm not sure I would call it an indoctrination. I do believe that it's legitimate to say that you have questions about it because it's a lot to take in. I wouldn't necessarily call it an indoctrination. And when I grew up, there were definitely trans people. And maybe there wasn't an awareness of it in the world or the country at large, But I remember trans people growing up. I remember people who were cross-dressers growing up. My girlfriend's brother was a transvestite growing up. So there were definitely people who were out there who were part of the trans community. And I remember the threats that Chris got from, my girlfriend's brother. I remember people on the street throwing things at him and threatening him. So I'm not sure it's an indoctrination. I think it's just maybe an awareness of things that happen in society. And that doesn't mean that the pendulum doesn't swing too far sometimes, but I'm not sure I would call it an indoctrination.
Okay, so here, you guys can see that Candace decides to, of course, bring up transgenderism when talking about her newly found Catholic faith, and that her faith directly correlates to her issue with LGBTQIA curriculum in schools being an issue for her, because, as you heard her say, she wasn't raised having to be subjected to the subject in this way. Well, my first issue with this rhetoric is the hypocrisy, because if church and state need to be separated, then can you do the damn separating and leave your religious ideals out of your political ones? That's the whole point of the damn separation. The other hypocrisy is that, so it was okay for homosexuality and lesbianism and transgenderism to be a subject you was exposed to, as long as it was a pastor or a priest yelling from his lungs every Sunday in a pulpit about how disgusting, vile, abominable, and hellbound queer people were, and enforcing that ideology that any person of the faith who identified this way and or supported someone being that way would be going to hell. But the school system teaching the contrary is all of a sudden off limits. Huh? So it was okay to institutionalize hate for homosexuals and trans people by way of the church, but not institutionalize any non-biased curriculum of the education system who's attempting to educate queer children, because straight cisgender children are not the only children who exist, while also with that same curriculum give straight cisgender heterosexual young people the opportunity to understand their peers who may identify or even be intersex, in order to combat what would be bullying and othering if it weren't for educating young people on that which they would have feared otherwise. We know that most fear originates out of ignorance, which then leads to violence. So the best way to combat ignorance and violence is through education. What people like Candace don't know that she's saying, or maybe knows that she's saying without really having to say it, is that they would prefer their straight cisgender children to be bullies and homo transphobes instead of loving, educated peers toward those who are different from them. Conservative right-wing Christians like Candace actually prefers her preference of a straight cisgender world to be prioritized over the normalcy and affirmation needed to inspire and affirm in underclass of people even lower in percentage than Black and Hispanic minorities. That her church-based beliefs should be prioritized over the potential of a greater quality of life for queer and trans youth. Yikes. Yet, y'all love the kids so much, right? Let y'all tell it. You know, for me, it's the ingrained entitlement and narcissism. And this is why people do not take Christians seriously, because many of their priorities isn't creating safety nets for the underclass like Jesus did, but instead use the label of Christian to justify other Bible-based views in alignment with their already pre-existing worldview, contrary to the teachings of their Lord and Savior, my God, today. You know, most people think that Candace won this debate, even though I'm not saying Don did either, because he didn't. He wasn't very convincing or articulate, in my personal opinion, in his rebuttals and assessments, which allowed Candace, who most people are going to agree with anyway, because they too are just as flabbergasting, shallow, materialistic, and bigoted on the issue of sexuality and gender to feel that she won by an absolute landslide when she, in fact, really did not. Let's move forward to the 20-minute and 52. Oh, that's coming up. Listen to
That's
this.
all I have to say about that.
Well, when I was in school, I learned that it was a mental disorder. I know that's changed, but it was in the DSM-5 as a mental disorder. And I accept that there are mental disorders, and people that are suffering from mental disorders should never be treated by people harassing them or people yelling at them or calling them names. So I'm sorry that someone that you knew went through that. But, you know, when people had mental disorders, it wasn't, at least it wasn't commonplace to try to teach them about and normalize the mental disorders in classrooms, because children are experimenting with ideas and children always want to be different. And if you say to kids, that, you know, obviously propaganda works. If you tell kids smoke cigarettes, they all start smoking cigarettes. We learned this. And then in my generation, we stomped out smoking cigarettes because of the reverse course on that and saying, like, no, actually cancer kills. They taught us in the classroom that cancer kills. And now the majority of people who were smoking like crazy in the 80s are not smoking anymore. So we know that psychological conditioning works, and that the majority of these 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds are not non-binary. They're just learning that as a way to be different, they can experiment with these things. And unfortunately, these have very evil results, because kids are being put on drugs that are quite literally used on.
Okay, so here it is. You can hear Candace, like the rest of the obsessed homo-transphobes, tried to justify her transphobia by bringing up how at one point the DSM-5, aka the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, once listed transgenderism and gender-based discrepancies as a disorder. And that's why she feels the school system should not be encouraging the normalization of transness, despite also saying in the same breath that it used to classify it as a disorder, even though it no longer does. Now, Dawn did clock her on that, and this goes hand in hand with how slick and manipulative Candace attempts to be in her rhetoric, because she counts on the audience not really listening and getting caught up in the swing of her whistleblowing, which acts as a mask for her contradictions. Even when Dawn called her out for being disingenuous because she acknowledged that it was changed in the DMS-5, yet still cited it anyway. And she gave him pushback instead of being honest enough as a Christian woman to confess to being intellectually dishonest in that moment. If you want to claim and cling to your personal views, that's one thing. But it's intellectually dishonest to cite something you know to be false and a lie as a historical fact. The historical fact is the DSM-5 changed their criteria and language around gender-based complexities, mostly because there was no scientific fact to base it on, considering that sex and gender are two different things to begin with. Yet Candace might as well have clung to the damn lie that interracial marriage is still outlawed, despite that not being the case today. You know, but then again, she would very well know that since she's married to a white man and totally benefits from the laws and society changing its views, right? See, it was also disingenuous and ignorant of her to compare gender-based phenomenon to cigarette smoking propaganda, which was her way of trying to maintain that sexuality and gender are contagious and can be transferred and created. That is not the way gender works, and gender cannot be compared to anything else, yet alone damn cigarette addictions, because gender is rooted in the aspect of the brain that functions alongside consciousness, which is why gender is also linked to spirituality and metaphysics. It is in a class of its very own. Even her example of kids, if exposed to cigarette ads and stimuli, would eventually cause them to smoke. Yeah, That's like saying if you expose your kids to Spider-Man, that their Spider-Man phase will last forever. Or if you expose them to any cartoon or Disney character, that they will actually forget who the fuck they are and completely and utterly identify as Barbie, Barney, Woody, Batman, and Dora the damn Explorer. Yet you know that to be factually not true because those things are shallow and not deep-seated and a part of a child's humanity like gender and sexuality is, which is why they will grow out of dressing like Spider-Man and Pepper the damn pig. But they won't grow out of their orientation or actual gender. This is why homosexual youth can be exposed to nothing but heteronormativity and still turn out gay any damn way. A trans woman can be raised by all men and still identify as trans, etc. Because these things are fundamental to our existence and sense of self. This is why it don't matter how much you try to beat, demonically exercise, or electrocute the gay out of someone, their attraction will still remain intact, possibly damaged, but still nonetheless intact. Straight people know it doesn't work this way. Because with that same logic, what straight natural-born folk would be forced to admit is that having gay or trans friends, relatives, or children themselves would make them gay and trans. And they would never admit to such foolishness because that foolishness is not rooted in any truth. We know that people have queer siblings, brothers and sisters, who don't even end up with the same gender or orientation as their queer sibling. You know why? Because once again, it doesn't work like that. And Candace either doesn't know that and is deeply uneducated as most people are, or she does and is just willfully complicit in her bias as most people are. Now, Candace saying at the end of her rebuttal that if she had trans children, she'd tell them that they suffer from a mental disorder and will get them help. This, my friends, is why the down low community exists. And the Candace Owens and Lil Bootsies of the world can thank themselves, give themselves a big old pat on the damn back for directly contributing to the existence of down low men and women who are going to be forced to identify and desire attractions according to the standards of the status quo, which then leads to further harm of queer people, the continual production of trans and homophobes in the world, and the victimization of innocent straight people who find themselves in intimate relationships with people who will eventually break their hearts and break up the home as a result of being unable to deny themselves their actual truths. Yet that seems to be exactly what Candace would be saying she wants if she insists that trans people should be treated like mental patients forced to comply with binary supremacy. But they won't talk about the hetero and Christian agenda that's in the underbelly of all this, right? Gay people don't even knock on your door and ask to come into your home to indoctrinate you like the Jehovah's Witnesses do, but gay and queers are out here turning them out one by one. Can we make it make sense? Furthermore, if gender was so transferable and contagious as hetero people would like you to believe, how is it that a man can suck on titties, fuck off on coochie his whole life, live with a woman, marry a woman, be deeply intimate with a woman, dwell in a woman's space without wanting to be a damn woman? How is it that a hetero woman can fuck on dick her whole life, marry a man, live with a man, cohabitate with a man, wash his clothes, wash his drawers, have a deep, intimate relationship to the opposite sex, and never actually want to be a damn man, her damn self? Okay. But we just gonna move it along and speed up to the 24-minute mark. I want you guys to check out this clip of Miss Candace.
Well, then that they have a mental disorder, and we're going to get them help.
Oh.
Well, then that they have play dress up, but you can't
I know
change your
plenty
sex.
of young people and old people.
Let me rewind that back a little bit.
In your rhetoric, you're saying that it's a mental disorder.
It is a mental disorder. That's what I learned in school.
It's not a mental disorder. Okay,
if you think that you're a boy and you're actually a girl, you are suffering from a mental disorder, obviously, because you can't actually change your sex, obviously.
I know plenty of children now. I know plenty
you can play dress up, but you can't.
She doesn't even know the difference between sex and gender. How shameful.
Of young people and old people who are trans, right? And they are not pretending. And it is not a mental disorder.
Oh, it is pretending because you will literally never be able, if you're a little boy, to grow up and have a baby because you're not a little girl.
I would hope that your child would not grow up, or your children would not grow up, and then thinking that they're trans, and then their parents telling them the exact opposite.
I would tell them that they have a mental disorder, and we're going to get them help.
I want to play this because, to continue this conversation, when I say that, I think that your views have changed over time. This is a clip from one of your shows. It was just last week as we continue this conversation. It's about flat earth and round earth and conspiracies. Let's play this.
Sure.
Commercial. Thumbs up the video, you guys, and share.
If there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe. And of course, he pushed me on this, and he was talking about the earth curvature and science. And I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science, because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, think about it, is a pagan faith.
So in this clip of Candace that Don played of her talking about how she left the code of science and realized that it's a misleading institution that preys on people's stupidity and can lead to harmful everyday people's common sense and reasoning abilities being destroyed, she'll go on further in the debate to say those things. I found this particular clip to be a mess because didn't Candace just get done trying to defend the DSM-5's previous diagnosis on transgenderism and state scientific fact like boys will never be girls nor grow up to be able to carry a child no matter how much they play pretend and dress up, yet is denouncing the very institution of science she relies on to be transphobic. I swear for God, you cannot make this shit up. This bitch just referred to all of the damn DSM-5, girl, and literally was out here talking what she would call scientific fact, and yet just at the same time completely denounced and walked away from the scientific institution that gave her all of that rhetoric. And this is the pussy popping, cherry picking that I'm talking about. Like, let me tell you, you have to really listen to this woman in this interview, because on the surface, it'll seem like she slayed until you're actually listening and you realize that this woman was grandstanding and literally commencing to the most absurd of contradictions. I mean, where they do that at? Well, apparently Candace does it on the Don Lemon show. So now let's fast forward, girl, to the 26-minute mark. I want you guys to hear this.
Simply accept what the experts tell them without thinking. We saw this during COVID, so I'm very comfortable saying this. People, if I had been saying this years ago, people would have been like, she's crazy. But this is what we mean when we say science. And by the way, these ideas, if you want someone even more brilliant than me who wrote about this, C.S. Lewis would be a great starting place. He termed this scientism, where the people that are in control of science create a faith. They create a faith by saying, well, the experts say 6 feet social distancing works. And so everyone starts walking around with 6 feet social distance between them. Until Fauci comes around, like he did recently, and say, we kind of made that up. We were just guessing. The experts say the COVID vaccine, if you get it, you will not transmit or be able to get COVID. Exactly, and then they go, actually, that wasn't true. So people, and without knowing that, subjected their bodies and said, okay, I'm going to get this vaccine. And then they say the science has changed. Well, if the science changes and you've already impacted your body, as many women, I did not get the COVID vaccine, and I'm not meaning just people who did, but a lot of my female friends were having menstruation issues, as we talked about on the show. A lot of my female friends had miscarriages, as we talked about on the show, simply because they trusted the experts, not because they actually knew
you don't know that
the
sure
science was
you don't know
accurate.
for sure that they had a miscarriage because of the vaccine. That's
they had first and foremost, they've already admitted that the vaccine, we're now past COVID era scientism. So they admitted that the 6 feet social distancing was fraudulent science. They admitted that the masking was
you realize
fraudulent
you're looking
science.
at something in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020 in your Monday morning.
Well, that's the point. And until you get hindsight, it's just a faith. And that is what I am talking about on my show. It is just a faith. People placed faith. It was not a science. It was a faith. Okay.
You said
and she's saying faith, Faith.
These are faith.
So that's a faith. You just believe it. You can't see it. You trust the person. You trust this person who is a science, who's a doctor, who you've enacted as the Lord in your life, and you shouldn't do that. Common sense to me when I was a kid. Common sense.
Okay, so I wanted you guys to hear that, and I hope you guys kept all that in mind. Because here, Candace gets a win, and this is where Don gets his L at. Candace goes on to explain the clip that he just played of her, and then segues into how the juice, for example, you know, the thing that they made y'all all take during the pandemic in order to pooch around the country, the juice that was, for example, pushed by Fauci and other doctors and scientists as safe and effective, when people actually got physically injured behind it. Therefore, people should also think for themselves and still retain autonomy, even in the lieu of so-called experts, as Candace was saying. Don pushed against the juice being injurious, but Candace was factually correct, as medical personnel and civilians all over the world have attested and proven to have ended up seriously injured, even fatally injured, as a result of taking the juice. And many of the pro-juice spokesmen have backpedaled their initial support of the juice, as well as Big Pharma obtaining immunity from the Supreme Court following the distribution and mandating of the juice in order to fly, work, travel abroad. Hell, in some countries, you couldn't even come outside unless you had been juiced, leading to over 70% of the world population to having some variation of the juice in their bloodstream, and leading medical experts, as a result of the data, not their opinion, but the data, to conclude that we won't even have a functioning military in the next 5 years, and that nearly half of the population, more than half of the population, will have even more health complications as a result of the juice in the future. So I'm gonna have to give Candace her win on this. You know, she clocked it, she bought it. Don needs to fucking educate himself and stop with the bullshit just because he probably drank the juice and don't want to have to think about what he has potentially done to his health as a result. You know, so it's denial on Don's end. But then you also heard, because I gotta give Candace another L. Right after her win, she takes another L as she goes on in her rhetoric to talk about how ridiculous and absurd it is to just take the word of a stranger, to have faith and put all your faith into what they're saying to you, when the irony here is that is exactly what Candace is doing by taking the word of authors of a book or books found in a damn cave who lived 2,500 years prior to her damn birth, and yet she's taking a religious doctrine and allowing it to inform her about sexuality and gender. So what's the damn difference? You can't oppose people's faith in what she's now calling religious scientism and the code of scientism, and how people should be critical and use their common damn sense. But yet, you're sitting here completely believing and taking literal a fucking religious books that talks about people walking on water, splitting damn oceans apart, talking about talking damn donkeys and people being whisked away in clouds and shit. But talks down about faith when she uses faith conveniently to be transphobic and homophobic as fuck. So how in the hell can you justify your political views on the basis of faith and then go in about how faith is absolutely ridiculous? As I said before, the only people who think Candace won by a landslide were people who clearly have one good working ear, never made it past 9th grade, and clung to her appealing to their trans homophobia as a basis for her winning. But anyone actually listening to this shit knows that she won nothing but an opportunity to talk to another black person. That's all that bitch won. Okay, now I want to fast forward to the 33-minute mark. Check this out.
Vaxxers and to those people, I wish I hadn't done it because maybe I wouldn't be in this hospital dying.
Oh, that's so shocking that you were able to talk to people on their deathbeds because people were not even able to see their loved ones. The hospitals were so locked down. So how were you able to speak to so many people on their deathbeds in hospitals in New York City?
No, this was not in New York City, as a matter of fact, and it was
It
was after the lockdown. It was at the hospital where I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And
yeah, it's quite shocking because they were not allowing in hospitals for people to even see their loved ones. You were able to talk to people on their dying bed.
Forget that there were.
That was their death wish to talk to Don Lemon about the vaccine. It seems like one of those stories when they
you're
say,
trying to explain to me where I was and what
happened. It's one of those fairy tale stories where they say, like, on her deathbed, she said, you know, I just don't really buy that. I don't really buy this, that you spoke to tons of people on their deathbeds.
Okay, this was after.
I'm gonna rate that false.
Okay, no, you're not gonna rate it false because all you have to do is go back.
Was it their last words?
Go back and look. No, their last words were not to me, but some of their last words were to me because some of them died after I left the hospital. It was not when we had the lockdown. This was shortly after things started to open back up. We could actually travel on planes, when we could leave our houses, and there were still people in COVID wards. And I interviewed them when I worked for CNN, and they said, I wish that I had taken the vaccine because maybe I would not be dying. And their loved ones afterwards,
they said
that on their deathbed. So what you're saying, I think, is completely.
Well, I just want to share a story too. I too was allowed as a journalist into hospital wards, and people said to me on their deathbeds, I wish that I hadn't taken the vaccine because it didn't work and I'm still dying on this deathbed. So I had the same thing happen to me.
It didn't work and they're still dying.
I got the vaccine and yet somehow I'm still on my deathbed. So clearly it didn't work. So that was that. I don't know. That's what they shared with me on their deathbed.
Okay, so if they wouldn't,
I was allowed into a hospital.
Well, that doesn't make sense though, because how do they know if they didn't?
Okay, so Don attempts to combat Candace's facts about the nature and outcome of the juice by saying that he met with non-juice patients who had contracted COVID-19 and rejected not being juice. And Candace goes on to run him down about how he basically has to be telling a damn lie because everything was on lockdown during that time and the hospitals weren't even allowing people to visit people who were dealing or dying from complications of COVID-19. But he goes on to clarify that his visits took place following the lifting of the bans for her just to follow up and claim that she too spoke to juiced up patients while hospitalized who were still dying from COVID-19, who regretted being juiced. Candace ass was literally just lying and contradicting herself at times, just like in this clip, just to be right about her points. And once again, this unalives her credibility and integrity and proves that she pushes her beliefs and own self-imposed facts over actual facts and data. And she will lie just to be right, just like her cult leader, Donald Trump. He taught her as well. And I'm just shook that she was this desperate to be right that she ended up exposing her damn self in her own rebuttal. Like, how you giving him heat inside on his testimony only for you to claim you were allowed as well to do the same damn thing as a member of the press who had a media pass in order to pooch around the hospital corridors? Let's move on to the 57-minute mark, Gray. Let's do it. This line, the lies.
Bothered me, but I want the explanation and the context, as you say.
Do you have any clips of anything that like you agreed with, or we're just gonna like pretend this is a friendly interview as you think like okay. Just wondering, is there even one clip of something that you agree with?
I don't know. Maybe I agree with the next clip. But anyway, roll the next clip, please.
Bring shame back. Bring back saying you are disgusting, you are wrong, you are a hoe, you are a pervert. Call things for what they are. And that is another way that they've psychologically tried to transform speech in America by saying like, oh, okay, you have free speech, but if you say that word, if you say like, oh, that's whack or that's gay, then that would make you a homophobe. You don't want to be a homophobe, do you? It's no, we shouldn't do that. And if you look at the disappearance of words that actually had real meanings, like growing up, majoring in English, reading old English novels, and understanding that a word like is a real word, it means a bundle of sticks.
People ask me all the time.
My God. So Candace and Dawn get into this discussion. Wait a minute. I'm gonna let it play some more. Wait a minute.
Chris, if you could only take one supplement for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I'm screaming.
Okay, so listen, I believe in free speech, right? But I also believe that free speech comes with consequences. So the word you said was right? Is that exactly the word? So what did you mean by that? You think it's okay to say the word, to call people to their face?
No, actually, I said words have meaning. And so when you start allowing the perverts to dictate speech, then words just have to go away. And as I said in that clip, when I was growing up and I was reading English novels, when people say you're walking through the woods to get a it meant a bundle of sticks. And then they said you can no longer say this word that has a real meaning, right? A bundle of sticks, because some pervert took that and threw it as an epithet towards gay people. I think that's actually, that's a wrong way of thinking, because then what you're doing is you're allowing perverts to dictate society. So I don't like the death of the English language because people are getting offended. So that's like, I could pick any word. I could say, plant. And from now on, every time I see a gay guy, I'm gonna be like, he's a total plant. And then eventually they say you can't say plant anymore. It's like, no, this is a real word that has meaning. Attack the person who's perverting the word, but you don't suddenly disappear a word and you say you can no longer say it, or you can no longer read these Virginia Woolf novels because the word has been perverted. I think that's a backwards way of thinking.
Read Virginia Woolf novels, and the only people I know who are trying to ban.
So Candace Owens and Dawn get into this discussion about the F word that rhymes with gag. And Candace is arguing how speech should be free, and she talks about how the F word has a German meaning of bundle of sticks and how it's wrong that people can't say the word without it being deemed as hate speech, even though the word literally means bundle of sticks. And here Candace goes acting stupid and dumb. I know that the goofy motherfucker knows that words can have, first of all, more than one literal meaning, such as the word mutt, which can mean a dog of ambiguous breed or mean a stupid motherfucker. For two, words can have their standard meaning, also like a colloquial meaning, such as dun 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 dun, the F word, which according to the Oxford Dictionary means cigarette, but colloquially means and references a homosexual, a rather fragrant one at that. Which means that Candace knows damn well that in the US, the F word has rarely been used in any other context than colloquially. Okay? Hardly nobody in the West, and damn sure nobody in the 21st century America, is saying the F word today in any other context than colloquially. So what exactly is her fucking point? Yet you take the prefix cis connected to gender and get cisgendered, which also has a standard definition that isn't even a gender epithet. And other words actually use no. Y'all will damn near argue down to Congress about cisgender, which isn't even a gender epithet, and how you don't want to be called that, and it's offensive and it's reductive, yet you're clueless about how other words actually can be used to be derogative and are actually meant to be derogative, could be mistaken as derogative, and how it shouldn't be deemed as hate speech because the original meaning is contrary. Well, with that logic, how about this? hate speech it is when the word is used colloquially. For example, if you were to say, look at that group of F words, when you're referring to a crowd of queer people, will be deemed as hateful because, for one, people are not cigarettes nor a stick of damn bundles, are they? Right. So they could not have been using the term literally and according to a standard definition now, Candace, would it? Which means that then the only other way they could have been using the word when they're referring to a person and not an actual damn cigarette and not an actual damn bundle of sticks would be, oh, you're using the word colloquially. And then depending on who's saying it and how it's being used, we'll deem it as offensive and hateful. Next case. And let's move last but not least to the hour mark, honey. Check this shit out.
Okay, but I don't think I've ever seen a skit on
You should
that.
watch it.
Yeah. No, but you would never call like a gay person that to their face.
That seems like an absurd, like, what? No, poor, I'm not just going around. I'm a 35-year-old mother. I don't go around being like, hey, you're a It's just like, I'm not 18 years old. Like, I'm not going around calling people names, period. And I wouldn't go up to a fat person and call them names. Wouldn't call it's just like it's an absurd thing to be going around pointing and calling people names because I don't like them. I would no. So the answer is no. I would not.
Do you use the N-word?
No, I don't.
Long pause.
Okay. Here's something interesting that we may have some common ground on.
I don't use it, but my white husband uses it when he's fucking this conservative pussy in the bedroom.
Okay. But what do you think about same-sex marriage?
It's a sin.
You think it's a sin? So you think
It
I'm
is a
sinful?
sin. What's that?
You think I'm sinful because I'm married to a man?
Yeah.
You do?
Yes, you're sinning. You are in a sinful relationship. I actually don't believe marriage can be between two men. So I don't.
But you understand, though, Candace, and maybe we're not going to agree on this now. I thought we would. Do you understand, though, that the same Bible verses and the same scriptures that are used to call same-sex marriage sinful are used to call interracial marriage sinful as well? And so there are people who would say that you are in a sinful marriage.
Can you tell me which verse it is that would make people say?
The thing is that it's actually not there, and that people twist the Bible verses. That's my whole point. Thank you for proving that, because it doesn't say that, and it's actually, you're going to say Leviticus or whatever. It's not actually what Leviticus says. But go on. I don't want to get into specifics about the Bible, but that's not what the Bible says. It's just people using and interpreting scripture in a way that they want to interpret it. So, look. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I don't believe that I'm in a sinful marriage, but there are people who believe, Candace Owens, that you are in a sinful marriage because you are in an interracial marriage. And
so Don asks about same-sex marriage. Candace asks for a verse. Deuteronomy 7 would be one of many, but Don said that the Bible doesn't actually mean what it has been deemed to mean by society regarding those verses, just as the Bible doesn't actually mean what society distorts about the verses used against queer people. Don clocked her, though, on that very point, that it's the audacity to justify your stance on same-sex marriage based on the same Bible that was used to justify a ban on interracial relationships, to justify enslavement, to justify the abuse of slaves, to justify racism. I mean, the same Bible book was used to wholeheartedly reinforce sexism and patriarchy. Hello, Candace, you are a woman, a black woman at that, who during biblical days would have had less value than cattle. Okay, where you weren't even allowed to choose a husband, nor were you allowed to have been sexually active with any other man following your honeymoon unless you be subjected to capital punishment. But once again, nobody cherry picks and pussy pops and cotton picks through the damn Bible more than a self-proclaimed Christian. Then things get even more awkward when Dawn asks her this. Let me see if I can find it.
It's not, I don't have hatred in my heart. I don't believe that people should be treated differently. I think people should get help, you know? And like we were just talking about with trans indoctrination, I believe that's a mental illness and people should seek help. But I don't believe that they should be discriminated against. I would never be okay with that. Okay. I mean, I have people that are, you know, gay and lesbians in my life. I have cousins who are lesbians. So it's not, I don't have hatred in my heart.
Do you have Jewish friends? Do you have gay friends?
I'm trying to be funny.
Do you have gay friends? I want to know.
Yes, I actually don't have, like, I really kind of feel like I only hang out with my family right now, so I'm a little, I've got 3 kids under 3, so I don't really have friends right now, but yeah, sure.
No, seriously, you don't have gay friends?
Well, I have gay people in my family, so yeah, that's the extent of my friendships with gay people.
Basically, she don't fuck with gay people. And that's her right, you know. I felt myself irritated by Dawn asking Candace about her feelings. And I don't even think it was the questioning of asking her about her thoughts. I think it was the way it's where he went after he did. And it was like, are you homophobic? Are you da 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 da? I thought a better way to go after she said what she said was to literally ask her, why does she not separate church and state? What if Luciferians and Satanists use their religious ideology as a way to inform their politics? You know, what if anybody else of any other religion used their religion outside of the Christian faith to inform policy and legislation? Like, I think a better way to have gone with that conversation would have been to inform her about how inappropriate it is for her to bring her religious ideas into a space where we get to vote, into people's quality of life. We get to have a say-so regarding people's experience and their experience of this country, their access to resources, because we get to vote. That is not appropriate. For me, when I think of politics, and I am a whole metaphysician, I'm a whole witch, I'm a whole spiritualist, I get into all the things. I'm a whole Christian mystic. There probably ain't nobody who got more goddamn metaphysical, spiritual, religious views than me. However, when I think of politics, and I'm looking at the diversity of this country and how I'm literally sitting within a melting pot, I'm mature enough to understand that my religious beliefs, my spiritual beliefs per se, should not, well, I'm gonna say my religious beliefs should not inform my ideals or should not inform my political stance, because this is the one space, to me, in my personal opinion, that should just literally be about human rights and just what's in the basic practical good of all people, regardless of race, regardless of their religious affiliation, regardless of gender, regardless of orientation, regardless of these things. Like, when I think of politics, my mind leaves all the spiritual religious shit out of the window, and I'm just thinking now about people. Like, this is where we get universal at. This is when it's just about making sure that people have the basic amenities of life, that they have access to food, they have access to education, they have access to housing, they have access to safety and a fair, dignified existence in this space. I don't need my fucking religion customizing the way that I think about the rules that we all have to sit under and be subjected to. Like when I think of politics, it's an opportunity actually to take off the religious cape and to just be a person and to think of other people as people. You know, to kind of go back into the mindset of the Constitution where it's a recognition that all men and women have been endowed with certain inalienable rights simply because they're men and women, simply because they're people. You know, I think of politics like a shopping mall. Like anybody can come in and buy clothes. Doesn't matter what your height, your weight, your ethnicity, your religion, your philosophy is, that the rules are very general so that they can encompass more people than not. You don't want to bring exclusive ass thinking and your damn religious ideas to the damn table, because you have to realize politics is a space for us to be very general so that more people can benefit than not from, once again, the resources and the goods. The more particular you are in your politicking, the more self-centered, the more your personal goes into politics, you're shrinking. For me, politics is about thinking about the bigger picture rather than the smaller picture. You know, my personal life is where I get to be on selfie mode. When it comes to my politics, in my opinion, my politics have to be on landscape mode. It has to be a space, once again, that is just about what I believe human beings should have access to, how human beings should be treated. Just basic social code of conduct shit. And I really don't understand the psychology of people who bring all this extra shit into the voting booth as if you don't know that you live in a diverse system. So how can you simply just like think about your little petty perception of reality and not understand that to vote is about considering the majority? It's about considering what's in the best interests. And it's just so, I mean, I found this debate interview, whatever the hell you want to, I found it so bewildering, because I'm just like, this woman is clinging to the Bible when it comes to talking about her feelings about trans folk and gay folk, but yet she wanted to make a goddamn martyr and a hero out of Ashley Babbitt, who broke into a whole federal building, who literally willfully broke the law as a whole adult woman. And she couldn't even call that woman a sinner, but she could look Don Lemon in his face and tell him that he is a sinner because he's in a same-sex marriage. But she couldn't even call Ashley Babbitt a sinner who broke man's law, who broke God's law. And my Bible, that also condemns sodomy and homosexuality, also condemns thievery. It condemns the breaking of the laws of the land. It encourages us to respect the laws of the land, to get information, and yet she wanted to make a damn martyr. It was easier for her to see the innocence and to see the virtue and to see the humanity of a pale bitch who tried to go through the glass window of a double door and got her fucking wig cap blown off, rightfully fucking so, because what the fuck else was you expecting, bitch? Like, a federal building is secured for a reason, and you and your band of thugs are gonna rush up in this motherfucker thinking that y'all are the fucking Power Rangers. And you thought that you was just gonna shimmy and Charleston shuffle your ass on upstairs, only to come back with a bill of health of deceased? Like, what the fuck else could she have expected? And she was lucky to get a warning when she got one goddamn foot through the window. Because had it been me, bitch, the minute that the glass would have broke, her ass would have ceased before the Father, Son, and the Holy Daughter. And yet, you could turn that woman into a victim. But yet, a person in a same-sex marriage, a person just living their life as a trans man or a trans woman, ain't bothering nobody, bitch, ain't running up on no federal buildings, ain't in nobody's way. They pushing through in their uniform. They pushing through in their love. They ain't putting nobody in a position to have to draw no weapons. Can't nobody arrest them for being trans. Can't nobody arrest them for being same-gender loving. And yet, you can see those humans as absolutely mentally ill. Well, how much more mentally ill was Ashley Babbitt to decide to be so susceptible to influence that she would take the words of a white man who's lost in the presidency that she doesn't know personally, to put her in a position to put her very life on the line and shame her goddamn family, shame her goddamn loved ones, and lose her life. And could you imagine the conversation that bitch had to have with the universe when she transitioned over? Because her ass transitioned too. Could you imagine having to go meet the father and the mother right in the midst of your bullshit? You get clipped right in the middle of your bullshit. And this is the hypocrisy. She want to slam faith. Faith is absurd, but uses a faith-based religion to develop her worldview in politics. The hypocrisy. Had the audacity to come down on science, but uses science in her bigotry toward trans people who, I quote, will never grow up to be boys and girls and have menstruals and carry children. The DSM-5. All scientific psychiatric manuals, references, and yet in the same breath talked about the indoctrination and falsehood of a science. If your ass thought Candace Won, baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry you that damn simple. I am so sorry that your brain is that low hanging. I am so sorry that you don't have no critical listening, and you damn sure don't have no critical thinking, baby. I am just so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry for all these D students who gonna be flying their ass to the polls, girl, voting their own oppression in, voting their own apocalypse in, girl. I am just so sorry. So sorry. A damn mess. The only good thing and factual thing that Candace said was when her ass started talking about the motherfucking juice. Facts. And shout out to Candace for being bobbed enough to not put that shit in her motherfucking belly, because her kids could have possibly came out with 3 damn legs and 2 damn heads, like 80% of Australia's birth rate is turning out as a result of the damn juice, because the data is all the way out. All these stillbirths, some countries have seen 80%, damn near 100% spike in premature births, stillbirths, deformities. Had a medical doctor saying that she gets to actually have a moment of silence when she delivers a healthy baby, because now that's becoming a rarity. Only thing that she said was off the chain and spot motherfucking on. And shout out to her for not subjecting herself to that shit. So, interesting. So, keep your eyes open, y'all. Stay woke, baby. Okay? These people out here just lying and pussy popping and just throwing shit up against the wall and expecting y'all to be stupid. They are attempting to gaslight and shock jock y'all when they be talking about trans folk and queer folk, because they know that most people are discriminative and prejudiced as hell. And once they start hearing these buzzwords, they ain't even going to think no further. They ain't even going to unpack it. They ain't even going to hear everything that's being said after that. They ain't even going to catch all the flaws, inconsistencies, all the error. They ain't going to even hear all that, because they're going to get so warped and Bluetooth in to relating to the bigotry, to relating to the prejudice, to relating to the fear-mongering, that before you know it, people like Candace done got away with goddamn murder in a whole dialogue, and you ain't even know. Because once she started throwing out trans and indoctrination and gay and drag queen and this, that, and the third, baby, you're stuck. Brain just freezes, honey. It's a shame. But I just wanted to come and get into that. I got to get out of here. I think the RNC is going on. I'm going to try to tune in and see what the hell these hillbillies got going on. Thumbs up the video, share. Show your boy some love on Cash App and PayPal, $ Cash App, paypal.me/Consciouztv, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.